Hi Rana. The identification of unknown substance using dilute sulfuric acid. So now let us see. Uh, Let us take a substance. So we don't know what is that substance. Okay. And in a test tube we have taken that substance and add dilute sulfuric acid to it. Suppose a colorless gas is evolved from it due to the reaction between these two, and if the colorless gas, it smells a rotten egg smell, it gives rotten egg smell. Okay, now this gas is producing a rotten egg smell, rotten egg smell gas. So which gas it is, which gas smells rotten egg? Already we know that H2S, the gas which produces rotten egg smell is H2S. So for further confirmation, just we use lead acetate paper, lead acetate. So lead acetate, when reacted with this gas, when lead acetate is exposed to this gas, what happens? It produces a black colored, silver black colored lead sulfide is formed, along with the formation of acetic acid. So this substance which is black, silvery black substance is formed. A silvery black substance is formed. So from this it is understood this gas is H2S. So now a substance when reacted with dilute sulfuric acid, it is producing H2S. So what that substance should be? That substance should contain sulfide. It should contain metal sulfide. Only metal sulfides will produce H2S when reacted with acid. So from this it is understood the substance is metal sulfide. Okay. For example, let us assume this is FeS, iron sulfide. So when it is reacted with a dilute sulfuric acid, it forms FeSO4. Okay, reaction takes place between these two and H2S gas is liberated. So in this way, so generally a sulfide, a metal sulfide, when reacted with a dilute sulfuric acid, it liberates H2S. So this is the thing one should know. That means sulfides will produce H2S gas when react with a dilute sulfuric acid. Right. So in this way we can identify the unknown substance as metal sulfide. Okay. Right. Now let us learn about another unknown substance. So that can be detected by using dilute sulfuric acid. Suppose let us take another substance. We don't know what is that substance. Simply another substance is kept in dilute sulfuric acid. Now this substance is producing brisk effervescence. It is producing brisk effervescence. Effervescence means bubbles. Brisk means very fastly bubbles are released. So and these bubbles will break down and produce gas, a colorless gas, a colorless, odorless, and a colorless, odorless gas which is acidic. This acidic nature can be known. So the gas acidic nature of the gas can be known by using litmus paper, by using litmus test, by turning lime water milky. Okay. So from this it is understood that the gas is having acidic nature. So litmus test. So blue to red, blue litmus to red litmus. So lime water is turned to milky, then the gas is acidic in nature. So there are so many gases which are acidic in nature, and particularly lime water milky can be done by three gases mainly: CO2, H2S and SO2. So already we know that H2S is Rotanex smell. See here, this gas is odorless, hence it is not H2S. And one more thing, SO2 will produce cough. Okay, cough, as it produces cough and irritating smell. So that means, so even suffocating smell, cough and suffocating smell. Hence SO2. Hence this gas is not SO2. And for further confirmation, so this gas, it is made to react with KMnO4 solution. So it is unable to change the color of KMnO4 solution. So from this it is understood the gas is carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide, it changes the lime water milky, but it does not change the color of KMnO4. Okay, so actually KMnO4 color is purple or violet color. Okay, so here CO2 is unable to react with KMnO4. And one more thing, so acidified with acidified K2Cr2O7, acidified potassium dichromate. So there is no change in color of acidified potassium dichromate, because it is not reacting with this one. So sulfur dioxide will turn acidified potassium dichromate to green color. So here it is not SO2. This gas is unable to react with K2Cr2O7 or KMnO4. Hence it is CO2. So finally the gas is found to be CO2. Now the thing is, so what is this substance which can produce a CO2 with a dilute sulfuric acid? The substance which can produce CO2 with a dilute sulfuric acid must be either carbonate, either metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate. Only metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate can produce carbon dioxide gas when made to react with the dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, by producing brisk effervescence. See, brisk means very fast. Effervescence means that bubbles or else nurugulu. So here, here carbon dioxide gas is released rapidly. Okay, so from this it is understood the given substance is either metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate. Metal hydrogen carbonate is also called as metal bicarbonate. So only metal carbonates and metal bicarbonates will produce carbon dioxide gas when made to react with dilute sulfuric acid. So from this it is understood, that means the identification of the unknown substance as metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate. So like this. Now let us learn another substance which can be detected by dilute sulfuric acid. Suppose take a substance and pour dilute sulfuric acid into it, and now these two will react with each other, and reaction takes place very briskly, very fastly, by evolving tiny bubbles. So tiny bubbles are cast. Reaction is also very fast. So now this gas bubbles are will break into gas. Now this gas, it is a colorless, odorless. It's a colorless, odorless. Okay, neutral towards litmus. Neutral towards litmus. Okay, neutral towards litmus. So these properties are shown by either H2 or O2 or H2 vapor. Okay, now so maybe this or this or this. So in order to know exactly what is this gas, so we will go with a burning matchstick or else burning splinter. So any burning matchstick, when it is brought near to this gas, what happens? This when if this gas is able to put off this flame by making tup or pop sound. Okay, so this flame is put off by making tup or pop sound. So which only hydrogen can make only hydrogen can have such property. So from this it is understood that the evolved gas is hydrogen. Okay, so now the question is, what is this substance? How to identify? What is this substance? What is this substance? See, look here. It is important to note that dilute sulfuric acid will produce hydrogen gas only when reacted with active metals like zinc, iron, okay, magnesium, okay, etc. Okay, these active metals will liberate hydrogen gas with dilute sulfuric acid. So from this it is understood this substance is nothing but active metal. Okay, so in this way we can identify the given substance by using dilute sulfuric acid, because here hydrogen gas is liberated with dilute sulfuric acid. So with dilute sulfuric acid, hydrogen gas is liberated only by active metals. Okay, along with this you will get metal sulfate also. Metal sulfate, but here we are interested in the gas. So here hydrogen gas is produced. How to know, or else how to identify this whether this gas is hydrogen or not? By simply undergoing with this flame test. Okay, the flame is put off by making tup or pop sound, then that gas is said to be hydrogen gas, and hydrogen gas is liberated when dilute sulfuric acid is reacted with active metals. So from this it is understood that the given substance is active metal, right? So in this way sulfuric acid helps us to identify different substances. Okay, right. Now let us learn about the identification of metal ions. Identification of metal ions. Okay, by flame test. By flame test. That means flame test helps us to identify. So what is the metal ion present in the given substance? So in order to perform this test, we have to use a platinum loop. So this is known as platinum loop. Okay. First we have to take a Bunsen burner. So Bunsen burner, it is available in the laboratory. So actually, this Bunsen burner will produce a non-luminous flame, blue flame, non-luminous flame. That means blue flame. So the non-luminous flame, the flame which contains more energy. So non-luminous flame is always be more energetic, or else it produce more heat than the luminous flame. Luminous flame is golden yellow or yellow in color, whereas non-luminous flame will be blue in color. So now just take this platinum loop. So this is called as loop. It is made up of platinum. Now take dilute hydrochloric acid. Here we have to take concentrated hydrochloric acid. So flame test means here we have to take concentrated hydrochloric acid. Concentrated hydrochloric acid I have taken. So now simply dip this. Now simply dip this platinum loop in the concentrated HCl. Now dip this platinum loop in concentrated HCl and bring this loop into the non-luminous flame. Keep this loop into the non-luminous flame. Okay, so this is the first figure, this is the second figure. So take a platinum loop, so dip the platinum loop in concentrated HCl, okay, and bring that next bring that platinum loop and keep in a non-luminous flame. See, initially the color of the flame will change. It keeps on changing. The color of the flame will keep on changing initially. So we have to keep this platinum loop in the non-luminous flame until the flame becomes colorless or else non-luminous, blue color. Okay. Initially, when we brought this platinum loop into the non-luminous flame, so the flame color will change. It shows different colors. We have to keep this platinum loop in the flame only until all the color will disappear, and now finally a blue color flame will produce. Non-luminous flame again it will produce. Okay, so till then we have to keep this platinum loop in the flame only. Now after losing all the different colors, now the flame will get back to its original blue flame. Now again dip this platinum loop again into the concentrated HCl. Okay, now for the second time dip this platinum loop into the concentrated HCl. So now we have kept this loop in concentrated HCl for 2 times. Okay, now after keeping this platinum loop into concentrated HCl for the second time, just we have to pick a little amount of compound. Suppose let us assume this is a compound. This is a compound which is kept in a vessel. Okay, now we have to identify what is the metal ion present in this compound. This compound contains metal as well as non-metal substance. So what are the metals present in this compound? In order to know what is the metal ion, so simply just you pick little amount of this material, the compound into the loop. Okay, now the loop along with that compound, again it is brought into the luminous flame, non-luminous flame. So for the second time, now you are bringing this platinum loop into the non-luminous flame again. So before that, now it is second time that platinum loop is brought into this non-luminous flame. Now here this platinum loop is having some compound in it, in the loop. Okay. Now you observe the color of the flame. The color of this flame will change. So initially it was blue, but now when the platinum loop is dip in a compound and brought near this non-luminous flame, so now the color of the flame will change depending upon the metal ion present in the in this compound. Suppose if this compound contains sodium ions, then the flame color will be golden yellow. The flame color will be golden yellow. Suppose if it contains potassium ion, okay, persistent, it is persistent means, so that means the golden yellow will not disappear. It will continuously, the flame will produce continuously golden yellow until all this compound is burnt. Okay, So that means persistent. Persistent means continuously occur. Okay, without any gap. So golden yellow color flame is produced when sodium ion, suppose if sodium ion is present in this compound, then when this loop along with this compound is introduced into this non-luminous flame, now this flame will get a golden yellow color, persistent golden yellow color. That means the color does not disappear, or else the color does not change into another color. Suppose if a potassium ion is present in this compound, then it produces non-persistent lilac flame. So lilac flame, lilac color flame. Okay, it is non-persistent. Non-persistent. What is the meaning of non-persistent? That means the color it will change. So from pink to red to lilac. Lilac means it is like a violet color. Okay, so like this. So it will keep on changing its color. Slight changes in its color. Very slight changes. Okay. So if it is potassium ion present in this compound, then this flame will produce this color, lilac flame. Suppose if this compound contains calcium ion, then the color of the flame will be brick red colored flame. Okay, it is also non-persistent means color is not constant, so it keep on changing slightly. So from brick red to light red, or from light red to pink, like this. So it keeps on changing, but it maintains at that range only, at the in the range of red color only it will be. So like this. Suppose if it is strontium ion, what happens? It produces crimson red color. The flame is crimson red color flame. Okay, suppose if it is barium ion, Ba+2, so it is apple green flame. The flame will be apple green. Okay, in this way, right. Suppose if it is copper ion, Cu+2 ion, so again it is a green flame. Like this. So depending upon the ion, the color of the flame will change. So in this way, so depending upon the color of the flame test, so we can identify which metal ion it is. Suppose if the flame color is golden yellow, then we can identify that that metal, that substance is having sodium ion. Okay. Suppose if the color of the flame is crimson red, then this substance is having which metal ion? Strontium. Okay. Suppose if the color of the flame is changed to apple green, then we can easily tell that this compound is having metal ion, barium ion, Ba+2 ion. So in this way we can identify the metal ions with the help of flame test. Okay, right. And one more thing. So with this is all unaided eye. That means directly with our naked eye, if you observe the flame will be in this color. Sometimes in order to protect our eye, so we use some screens, okay, like blue glass, etc. So through that glass we will observe the flame. So if you observe the flame through blue glass, if you observe the flame, if it is sodium ion, then it appears to be again pale yellow. It is pale yellow. So through blue gas, if you observe the flame, so the flame color will be pale yellow. Suppose if potassium ions are there, If you observe through the blue glass, okay, it appears to be violet flame. Violet flame. It appears to be the flame. The color of the flame will be violet flame. Okay, it will be violet flame. If it is calcium, if calcium is present, so the color will be pale green flame. It is pale green flame. What is the meaning of pale green? Light green. So it produces pale green flame. Which one? So calcium ion. So this calcium ion will produce pale green flame when observed through blue glass. Okay, if we observe with our naked eye, that means without any help of any screens or else any glass, if you directly observe with our eye, so that the color of calcium ions produce the calcium ions will produce brick red color to that flame. Okay, so in this way different ions can be identified with the help of a flame test. Okay, now the last part in our practical chemistry is determination of percentage composition of a mixture. Determination of percentage composition of a mixture. So here we will take mixture. This we will take the mixture. Which mixture? Salt and sand mixture. So powdered salt, okay, plus sand mixture. Powdered salt and sand mixture. Also salt and sand mixture we take. Okay. So in order to find, or else in order to determine the percentage composition of mixture, you have to do a small experiment. So what is the thing we have to do? Simply just take a clean dry beaker and weigh it. Suppose take a beaker. It's a beaker. Okay, clean and dry. Take a clean and dry beaker and initially weight. So mass of the let the mass of the empty beaker. So now the mass of empty beaker. Mass of empty beaker. Let it be x grams. Let it be it as x grams. Now just into that beaker pour a mixture of clean sand and the salt. Okay, pour this mixture, sand and salt mixture. Okay, the mixture of sand and salt mixture is poured into this one. Okay, now after pouring this mixture, after pouring the mixture of sand and salt into this beaker, now again you weigh the beaker. Now the mass of empty beaker plus mixture. Mass of empty beaker plus mixture. Now because we are reweighing this, so initially we have seen the weight of this beaker as x grams. Now pour the mixture into this empty beaker and let the again weigh it again, reweigh. So after reweighing this one, let us take the weight of this mixture and empty beaker be y grams. Let it be y grams. Okay. Now simply pour some distilled water into this one and stir it well. So now what we'll do? Pour distilled water into it. pour some distilled water into this one. Okay, so pour some distilled water into this one and stir it, and stir means, that means to mix it well. Okay, with a spoon or else with some rod, like that. So again what happens here, only salt will dissolve in the water, sand does not dissolve. So take just you filter this one, by using a filter paper. So transfer this one into a filter paper. So now what is this one? Filter paper. So slowly the water, the solution, salt solution will enter into this one. So what is left over here? Only sand which is insoluble is left over here. The insoluble salt in the mixture will be left over here. Simply take out that salt, okay, dry it. So take out that sand. Okay, so now no need of this. This is called as filtrate. Filtrate. What is the filtrate? What is the meaning of filtrate? The substance which has passed through the filter paper, okay, and it leaves the filter paper, is said to be filtrate. Okay, now this solution is said to be filtrate, and this is called as residue. Now sand is the residue. So here sand is the residue. Just you dry the sand. After drying the sand, again you find the weight of the sand. So now the mass of only sand, let it be as Z grams. Okay, so initially we have weighted the empty beaker and noted it as X grams, and we have poured some mixture into that empty beaker and reweighed that beaker along with this mixture and found to be Y grams. Okay, now note it as Y grams, and simply just pour distilled water into this one, make a solution of this. So only salt will dissolve. Okay, sand does not dissolve in it. So now transfer this one into another container by filtering it. So upon filtering, what happens? Only the as a salt is soluble in water, salt will come along with the water as filtrate, but sand is left over as residue. Okay, now this sand is made to dry. It allow it to dry for some time. So after perfect drying of this sand, just simply find the mass of this sand, weight of this sand, and note it as Z grams. Okay. Now, what is the mixture of mass of mixture of sand and salt alone? So in order to know the weight of mass of mixture. So how to know the mass of mixture? Simply by subtracting X from Y, because Y is nothing but X, the mass of empty beaker plus mixture. So what is the mass of empty beaker? X plus mixture mass we don't know. So mixture mass is equal to Y grams. Therefore mass of mixture is equal to Y minus X grams. So in this way we can find the mass of mixture, and mass of the sand is Z grams. Okay, mass of the dry sand is, mass of sand only is Z grams. Now from this we can easily find the percentage of sand in the mixture. See, what is the mass of mixture? Y minus X grams. The mass of mixture is Y minus X grams. Okay, Y minus X grams. So in y minus x grams, simply there is a formula, okay, or else we can deduce that formula also. Mass of mixture y minus x grams, okay. In y minus x grams of mixture, in y minus x grams of mixture, how much grams of sand is present? Z grams of sand is present in this mixture. So the mass of mixture is y minus x. So in this mixture, so how much amount of sand is present? Only Z grams of sand is present. Suppose if it is 100 grams of mixture, so here y minus x grams of mixture, it is having Z grams of sand. Suppose if it is 100 grams of mixture, so how much sand will be? So it is nothing but percentage. So per 100 means percent. Percent means per 100. Cent means 100. So percent, that means per 100 how much? Per y minus x grams it is Z grams. Per y minus x grams of mixture, Z grams of sand is present. So per 100 grams of mixture, how much amount of sand will be? So upon cross multiplying, so let us assume this be this is what? Percentage of sand. Percentage of sand means per 100 how much? The sand. How many grams of sand? So percentage of sand in grams. Percentage of sand in grams. So per 100 grams, so per 100 grams, so how much amount of sand is present? For x minus y minus x grams, Z grams of sand is present. So for 100 grams of mixture, so we have to find for 100 grams of mixture how much amount of sand is present. So let us understand that this is percentage of sand. So this is percentage of sand. So percentage of sand upon cross multiplying, we can find that. So percentage of sand into y minus x, percentage of sand into y minus x is equal to 100 into z. So therefore percentage of sand is equal to, okay, z by y minus x, okay, into 100. So what is this one? This is called as percentage of sand in the mixture. Percentage of sand in the mixture. Then what is what is Z? Z is what? Z is mass of sand. Mass of sand alone. So here mass of sand alone. We got this mass of sand alone by after doing filtration. Okay, what is this one? Y minus x. Y minus x is nothing but it is nothing but what? Mass of mixture. So mass of mixture. So finally we can write the formula like this. See, percentage of sand in the mixture, is equal to, what is this one? Mass of sand by mass of mixture into 100. So like this. So in this way we can find the percentage of a given substance in the mixture. Now what will be the percentage of salt in the mixture? The percentage of salt in the mixture, so can be calculated simply by subtracting this one. from 100. 100 minus percentage of sand. 100 minus percentage of sand. If you do, we will find the percentage of salt in the mixture. Okay. Or else we can find the same form. We can apply the same formula by simply changing the term sand instead of sand. We can write salt. That means percentage of salt in the mixture. Percentage of salt in the mixture is equal to mass of salt by mass of mixture, mass of salt by mass of mixture into 100. So like this we can use the formula to find the percentage of any substance. Okay, percentage of any substance, okay, in a mixture. Or else simply percentage of a substance in the mixture. Percentage of a substance in the mixture is equal to mass of that substance, mass of that substance, mass of that substance by total mass of the mixture, by total mass of the mixture, by total mass of the mixture into 100. So in this way we can find. So this is the formula. So this is the formula to find the percentage of a substance in the given mixture. So like this, with this formula, with the finding of this formula, so the part of practical chemistry is finished, and even the book is also finished. So like this.